My name is Agnieszka Szulińska. I'm working at the Institute of Literary Research of the Polish Academy of Science, and my research project is behind the scenes, integrating TEI Panorama of Polish data into DraCor Programmable Corpora. I'm myself a literary researcher with a strong background in digital humanities. I mostly work with developers, and although I am not programming myself, I try to facilitate and bridge the gap between traditional humanities researchers and the newest technologies. So myself, I am not particularly connected to only one genre, for example, 19th century letters, but I try to look around and find the solutions for a particular digital project and make humanities project and make it more digital. Yeah, so because I'm in a process of writing my PhD, so I slack a lot on social media, obviously. Like the procrastination is a key, of course. And I think at some point I just found on X, formerly known as Twitter, an info about this. So in social media, I also myself, I'm in a kind of dividing my attention between Mastodon, Blue Sky, and X, because the academic circles are split at the moment. Yeah, but I think also in our Digital Humanities Center, Maciej Maryl was a fellow, also a TNA fellow, and he posted an info about the fifth call. So I've got this info from several stages. Because I'm writing a PhD about digital scholarly edition of Polish literary text and about manual annotation, manual semantic annotation. I also thinking how to put this fair data approach to the digital scholarly editing in practice, because at the theoretical level, like they are often repeated in many reports and so on, and it's okay. But when it comes to practice, I'm also interested in this reusable stage, how to further allow other digital humanists to use our data, because it's not so also sometimes clear. Not only in the legal terms, but what can we really do? And in my opinion, DraCor should be like a recommended case, especially for plays, to reuse the data, because the team has really wide knowledge on linked open data, of course, on the technical stuff. And I wanted to integrate these resources from our TEI Panorama platform with DraCor. So I think that TNA fellowship was perfect for that. Also, I'd like to enrich already existent DraCor, so Polish corpora of plays on DraCor. And we chose a demanding case study, a play, one of the well-known and greatest Polish poets, Juliusz Słowacki, which is called Samuel Zborowski. And this is a kind of stress test for TEI. It was a kind of stress test for Panorama, TEI Panorama platform, and also for DraCor, because this play was never finished. Juliusz Słowacki died before finishing it. It was never published as a book during Słowacki's life. And later some editors tried to put it in a form of paper book, let's say, but the results was far from satisfactory and so on. And when it comes to the digital domain, it was finally released from this linear requirement for publishing texts. Some of the characters were grouped into one entity because, in fact, even with a different name, this was the same person, and it was not a kind of changing their identity. It was more because Samuel Zborowski in general is a huge conversation between ghosts, and their, let's say, ontological status differs from particular dialogue. Because the other thing is that in a paper version of this play, some editors decided to put accent scenes, and it was forced because the author never put it. And DraCor allowed us to change this, because we could divide the text into some kind of, let's say, dialogues, but it was called configuration, and it was better. It was more connected to the nature of the texts. And of course, you can also go on TEI Panorama. We decided to go with the pages from manuscript, but for the DraCor reason, it was semantically correct to divide it into other options. So we kind of transformed our TI schema to DraCor TI schema because we've got the same standard but use slightly different tags. And during this TNA fellowship, there was this kind of transform approach to transform it because our text was considered as one with advanced markup, but still needed to be slightly adjusted for the DraCor purposes. And with the help of DraCor team, we use it. We was able to done it with such short period of time, relatively, because the DraCor team, especially Daniel, was able to write Python script to transform it automatically. So it was really convenient. So mostly all challenges and stuff on the technical side was quite fairly resolved in a positive way. But other set of things to discuss was on the side of connecting between me, DraCor team, and the team of digital editors who prepared Samuel Zborowski on TEI Panorama. So I was this kind of facilitator between two teams. And I have to, for example, discuss with digital editors if they agree on this configuration change instead of page division on DraCor. Also about when the theater premiere was. Yeah, even if this play was never finished, it was on stage on theater, so that's interesting. But because it's probably that of Juliusz Słowacki's status in Polish culture, so it's really tempting for anyone to use it. And yeah, so I think that this fellowship was successful in many terms. But it was kind of a challenge to working with such demanding case, but we were able to forge a path to further collaboration in the future. Because I write about this also fair approach to digital scholarly editions, I would like to investigate how digital editions are innovative in comparison to their paper procedures, let's say, the paper versions. Maybe this is the same, maybe this is not exactly the same, but I think this reuse point is especially crucial for that. And of course, we would like to put other dramas into Pol DraCor to expand it, to also connect with the other Polish teams to add their resources of data into Pol DraCor. So again, this is also a kind of coordinating tasks, not only strictly technical ones. For the future plans, there is also very important to also show the examples of reuse of Pol DraCor to digital humanists, because Pol DraCor is a reuse step for TEI Panorama, but it could be further reused. For example, show how this kind of networks, which are automatically generated from proper TEI schema DraCor marked play, how could be, for example, the confirmation, or quite the opposite, our intuition from close reading approaches. Because, for example, for Samuel Zborowski, the digital editors somehow they thought that a certain character named Lucifer is like in the center of all interactions on this drama, and the network which was generated and showed co-occurrence of all the characters was in fact in the center. So it somehow confirmed some of the assumptions which are made of the close reading approach. And of course, I think that it will only benefit the scholars and the authors of the plays, because when you have the full text, you can read it and you might be interested in a particular play, and it won't come against any of personal well-being, for example, of any kind of author or the current ownership of owners of the legal copyright. So I think it's like super crucial to prepare such data and know to reuse them. And of course, it doesn't have to be like the only aim of the project is to put the data on DraCor. Sometimes it could be like a side effect of it. Of course, especially if you are building a corpora, not all the text don't have to be a drama from the drama genre. But if you know that this kind of resource exists, this programmable corpora, it would be advisable to put at least a chunk of your data into it. It doesn't have to be like the whole should be uploaded, especially if it's not the case. And I think it's still this kind of thinking or approach that we think only in one way. For example, if we are building a scholarly edition of correspondence, we only think that it would benefit, for example, the people who are researching correspondences. But sometimes you can scrap the data that might be used totally elsewhere and might enrich, for example, Wikidata, because one of the things that our link open data approach for DraCor is that you have to add an ID for author and for the play. And when I was looking at Wikidata for Samuel Zborowski, there was only title for the Polish version of Wikidata, not only for English, and was this kind of message, no label defined for other languages. And this is like super easy case, but you can just add it like the same in a few fields, and it's okay. But for example, when we are preparing a digital scholarly editions, our editors will find the data on some kind of publishers, which were very active in 20th century, in the 20th century Polish areas. But there is no info on Wikidata on that. So we could think not also what we can gain from external resources like DraCor or Wikidata, but on the other way, how we can enrich them. There is no super clear path for the institutional collaborators with Wikidata, how to enrich it like massively. It's not super easy, but still I think this data is so well crafted that it should be. Of course, the work of the volunteers, of the enthusiasts is also super important, but I don't think sometimes scholars think only about their website, and I think how to at least some parts of them should be reused on other resources. Of course, some people think that this can be a kind of, I don't know, like dividing data into other things, but as long as it has a proper documentation, I think no one should be confused that this is like the same or which is the latest version, because this is not that putting exactly the same in a few places, but rather you utilize a different parts of a project accordingly to various resources. Yes, well, also what interests me are not only tools, but also workflows. At some point, I'd like to also dig more into some kind of hardware philologies, for example, how to scrap manuscripts written on computer from some writers, personal PC, for example, but it's still a kind of new thing. And I'm also more into digital scholarly editing, like preparing a critical edition, but also more digital born, which I'm currently working. But at some point, I would like to expand the area, not only Polish literary text, but also this kind of text, for example, data from social media or video games. Of course, this is kind of new approach, and there are not like strict steps how to prepare such edition, but maybe at some point I will move to that.